So we're back after a short interruption by the telephone and the shop cat. We are back. I thought about trying to edit this and making it seem as seamless as possible, or even re-recording this. Instead, I think, in the finest traditions of the theater, I'll just roll with it. So we'll call this Part 2B. So we were just discussing groups and the position palette. So let's go back over here to our pan and tilt controls, and let's say I find a position that's useful for my moving heads. Let's say, just for the sake of it, that it's 119 on the tilt and 233 on the pan. This gives me, say, a backlight for my worship leader. What I'm going to do is, I am then going to go to my handy dandy little record key here, and I'm going to click in the palette. I have now stored, for all 4 techno beams, this position, 119, 233, into palette number 10 under position. Now what that does is it records only the positions. It doesn't record the color information, gobo information, anything else. It records only the positions. So you see how this comes in handy. Next time I have the units in some position, let's say far right, and I want them in a queue as the backlight for the worship leaders, instead of having to go to pan tilt 119, pan 233, I simply click palette number 10, and they go to that position. So, next up is color. I click on color, and color has 2 different options. In the first one, since this is a techno beam, it will show me the color palette for the techno beam. White, red, amber, yellow, green, cyan, pink, and magenta. Those are the possible colors that you can get with your standard techno beam. If I want the magenta color, I simply hit magenta, and the color wheel will spin to the magenta color. And we can tell that by going over here where it says color wheel 040 dark magenta. Now, like with all constructs, there are a myriad of ways to adjust them. In this case, I could literally come over to the color wheel and flip through the colors available from white to pink, aqua, dark magenta, green, amber, yellow, etc., etc. Now, I could also adjust it by turning the wheel, but in this case, unless you have a physical wheel, there's really no reason to do that. Other options included with color, in this case, are color spin. This will give me, in this case, a fast forward color spin, a fast reverse color spin, a continuous color spin, a slow scan, a fast scan, or a random. So we can go through and decide which color spin effect that we like and program it into our cues. Now, with the techno beam, those are your only color options. But with other units, such as LEDs or CMY color mixing units, if we click the color button again, which I just did, it brings our color picker up. For this, we can simply click anywhere inside the color picker, and it will color mix to that color. For example, blue, green, we can go over here on the edge to red, and it will actually color mix the units that we have selected, if they have color mixing, to that color. It'll take care of all the math for us. We can also go down here to some colors that we know, brown, sienna, there's a whole list of colors down here. Yellow, lime, lime green, olive, and we can click on these colors, and with varying degrees of success, they will be imitated in the lights. Okay? So, those are our color options. Now, once I select a particular color and I really like it, and let's say I had to mix it myself or I had to choose it from the color picker, if I go back and click the color key again, it will take me back to the color palette for the unit, and then I can record a new color palette. For units with color wheels whose palettes are preset, this is not necessary because all the colors will be programmed into the palette already. This is mostly for color mixing units or units that you receive who do not have pre-built palettes. Okay? Our final option is beam. This is all the fun stuff. Gobos, shutters, focus, all that stuff. You'll see, if you look up at the upper left-hand corner, there are actually 4 pages of beam commands. The first page has the shutter command for the unit. Closed, open, periodic strobe, random strobe. We have all sorts of options. Focus. This unit does have a remote focus, so I can run the focus one way or the other to bring something into focus or pull it out. And effects, which in this case is a prism, a rotating prism as a matter of fact. So I can go through all the prism positions and their respective rotations. On the other side, we have the litho rotation, which is, in this case, the rotation of the litho itself. Litho spin, which is the spin of the litho wheel to create a certain effect. And litho rotation low, which allows you a finer control of how fast it rotates. If we go over to the beam palette, we see various wheel spins, focus adjustments, etc., etc. So you see that there are many options within the beam. Now, if we go to page 2, by clicking the beam button again, our only option is effect speed. That's for the rotation of the prism. Page 3 has M speed, which was a setting on old high-end systems units where you could set the motor speed to a specific speed instead of just abiding by the fade time. And finally we have macros, which were built-in movement macros at the time. And we have control, which is the lamp on, lamp off, all those sort of effects for the unit. So we can go back now to the first page of beam, and we go over here, and we have beam, color, position, FX that we haven't really dealt with, intensity, which I explained is actually faders, and the group selection. So those are the options that you can change on your units. Now let's say you change your units, which we have done, and you like the input and you like the look that you see on the stage. All you then have to do is go to the record key. By the way, we're actually going to go real quick to the out button that we explored before, and we see now a listing of what the unit is doing and what everything is doing. So we can see everything. We can see that the dimmers are on 55%. We can see all the settings for the techno beams. Gives us all the DMX output. If you're trying to chase a DMX ghost or something not working correctly, that's a pretty handy screen. Then we go to the programmer screen, which shows us the same thing, but it shows us what is contained within the programmer right now. For example, the techno beams were never dimmed on. So if I were to record this, no matter how much I wanted to, I would never be able to see the techno beams because their dimmer is not recorded in this queue. On the other hand, if the techno beams are already on from a previous queue and I want them to go off, if I record this particular look, the techno beams are going to stay on because of tracking. Okay? So there's the uses of the programmer and the output. Now if we come down here to the bottom, we see the record button. I can take this look and I can record it, and there are a number of different ways for me to record this particular look. In part 3, we'll go over recording cues. Thanks, have a great day.